Hello, friends. My name is Sean, and in the next 40 minutes, I will be doing a lot of talking with a demo in the middle. My hope is to convince you that Canada really needs its own dedicated social network platform. And by this, I mean a publicly funded digital infrastructure that is made by Canadians and for Canadians. I believe that this is the most important undertaking of our time because it solves our two most pressing crises, that is the rising cost of living and the ongoing annexation attempt by Donald Trump. In fact, for the past 10 years, I've been on this journey of trying to promote the idea of a digital infrastructure to support our economy, which is mostly online nowadays. Of course, I did not foresee the situation with Trump. What I did foresee and try to prevent was an economic disaster which manifested today as a cost of living crisis. It all started when I was working in an investment firm after graduation and realized that the financial system is not sustainable. Without going too much into detail, let's just say that, like a game of Monopoly, it is designed to always have one winner in the end. And today, the winners are clear. They are the tech oligarch, which even owns the US government now. And the rest of us are left to deal with ever more wealth disparity. And for Canada, the situation is even more dire because of our close proximity to the US. So not only Canadians have to deal with wealth disparity at home, we also experience an economic drain as our capital and best talent flow down south to the most competitive and wealthy economy in the world. My conclusion back then is that this downward spiral has caused by our dual affliction will only accelerate as technology advances, and this will inflict gradual but devastating damage to our economy.
Today, our country has had the lowest real GDP per capita growth among all growing OECD countries over the past decade. I am not surprised. Even 10 years ago, living in a rented basement, I had already begun searching for a solution. Before I get into it, I want to state my belief that our cost of living crisis does not come from a lack of resource. For us humans have long acquired the ability and the technology to make sure that everyone lives comfortably. Instead, it comes from inadequate resource distribution. So the cost of living crisis really stems from wealth disparity. But the inconvenient truth is that capitalism itself breeds inequality. The goal of capitalism is to accumulate capital, and by that definition, you only share resources if you can make more out of it. Amazon hires workers because it can pay them $1 for every $10 of value it extracts from them. And people invest in Amazon because the profit Amazon makes by exploiting its workers will reflect in their stock price. I call this the popularization of exploitation. If we make exploitation available to everyone and hide it under the veil of the stock market, we effectively increase the distance between the perpetrator class and the victim class. So exploitation now becomes normalized or even culturally celebrated. It is no wonder we have such an increasing wealth disparity. The result is clear in both Canada and the US. We have a cost of living crisis as the Bank of Canada prints money to balance out the disparity. But since this printed money ends up at the hand of the corporations and not of the people, we are just left to deal with ever more inflation. And also, America's descent into fascism has their oligarchs who control the government blame other countries for the problems that they themselves created and use it as a pretext to aggressively expand to other countries. Now, we cannot simply replace capitalism and force people to share their wealth. That would be communism. But what if we could engineer our environment to make collaborations more desirable over competition? Think about the game theory's prisoner's dilemma. It is a paradox in decision making where two prisoners separated by a wall without the means to communicate will make a worse off decision for both as they pursue their self interest. But if we remove the wall, they would agree to cooperate and both will receive a lighter sentence. Of course, we're not criminals, but let me ask you, would you exploit your neighbor or a member of your close knit community? I certainly hope not, because you'll be considered a jerk and possibly face repercussion. Instead of exploiting them, you would more likely share and help each other, whether it is because you care about them, for status and recognition, for collective benefit, or the simple fact that you wouldn't want to be the only one on your block living in a mansion while all your neighbors live in tents. If we want to fix our country's cost of living crisis, we need to recreate that sense of community on a national scale. But is that even possible? To answer that, let's first understand what makes a community. I believe there are two factors. First, the members of the community need a shared stake. Second, they must engage in what I call human interaction, which allows them to know each other intimately, including their need, desire, knowledge, and skills. This enables the community to distribute resources for all members to thrive and to contribute to the shared stake. As Canadians, we do share the common stake that is the well being of our country, including its economy and sovereignty. But I don't believe we function as a true community because we lack the ability for human interaction. This is understandable, given that we are physically dispersed across a vast geography. So the only alternative I see is to leverage technology by building an online community, like a virtual town hall where all 40 million Canadian citizens and immigrants can come together. This isn't just an idea. I know what needs to be built and have prepared a conceptual demo to show you. But before I dive into it, please bear with me as I take one final detour to cover my bases by answering a question you may already have. Why not just use the current social platforms? Unfortunately, these platforms do not deliver the human interaction required for communal sharing, which is why we have such a wealth disparity today in the first place. To understand why they fail, we need to dissect how they operate. There are two aspects all social networks share and are of interest to us: the method and the purpose. By methods, I simply mean how interaction takes place, whether through a one on one user chat, post feed with likes and comments, or other formats. The purpose is pretty self explanatory. Are users interacting for a job, a relationship, or else? The method and purpose are like the two axes of a graph upon which all social networks can be mapped. Please keep these two in mind as I will refer to them frequently in my demo. What the current social platforms do is to nail down a specific combination of these two axes to cover out their own user base. For example, some platforms prioritize the purpose axis, like Tinder for relationship or LinkedIn for jobs. Others are purpose agnostic but focus on the method, such as Reddit and Discord. Both caters to communities of various interests, but Reddit do so through post feed, while Discord relies on chat channels. This reliance on a singular and rigid model makes monetization easy, as these platforms simply need to expand geographically to maximize user base and profit. However, it is no substitute for the organic socialization that humans have been historically accustomed to, which we previously established as essential to form a true community. The result is the antisocial nature of our current social network landscape, where our full humanity are sliced into various platforms, and sometimes even reduced to just checkboxes and numbers. It is inhumane as it is inefficient. We are constrained by either what we want to do, by how we want to do it, or sometimes by both. In real life, people have multiple needs and desires simultaneously. Just like when kids go to school, they're not just acquiring knowledge, but also learning how to socialize with their peers and discovering a world beyond their home and parents. In a similar manner, we need a holistic approach to social networking that does not limit us by purpose and method. So without further ado, let's dive into the demo and show you the type of platform that can accomplish this. Before we start, just a note that this is not a real application. It is a quick front-end mockup I created without UX UI consideration, for the sole purpose of showcasing how one platform can replace most of the current ones. As you can see, it is fairly simple with the Feed, User, and Subs tab at the bottom. And for each of the three tabs, there are specific actions you can take at the top. Let's start by exploring how it allows different methods of interaction. Currently, we are on the feed page, where you can see posts with likes and comments. There are even surveys you can take and links to videos. So this will be equivalent to a post or tweet-based way of interacting, like Facebook or X. Notice that all the posts have a general title here. That is the name of the community I joined, or as I call here in the tradition of Reddit, a sub. Then we have the Users tab, where you can see a grid of all the users, or a detailed list if you toggle the view action on the top. Here you can see some personal detail of the user like age, gender, location, and also whatever sub you are both part of. You can also click into their profile to see their activities, whether it's part of a sub or their own personal timeline. This is where you can discover new people and chat with them. So now we shifted from a post-based interaction to a one-on-one user-based interaction. It is also tied back to the feed page by the follow feature. When you follow someone, whatever they post, comment, or like will also appear on your feed. So here I am going to follow Frank and Erica. And you can see that their activities are now shown on the feed page. Notice how the posts are color coded. So if their activity is part of a shared sub, as the case here with the general sub, then the color remains the original green. But if it's coming from a sub that we don't share, then it is blue to make it stand out in case I am interested in that sub too. Then there is that rare yellow post. And this means that it comes from the user's personal timeline and does not involve any sub. So you can already see a bit of a hybrid application between personal posts and community-based ones. And to make it easier to choose between the type of posts you want to see, you can click on the eye action above. Here, you see the mentioned colors and their explanation. By default, you see everything. If you want to make it more like a Reddit to only see posts from your communities, you can toggle the green option here, and only posts from your subs will show. Since we only joined the general sub for now, that's all we see. If you want it to behave more like Facebook to see the action of your friends, or in this case your followed users, you can use the blue one to see what they post, like, or comment on the subs that only they joined. And finally, if you want to make it more personal, like Instagram, you can toggle to yellow and see what they post on their personal timeline without any subs involved. Now, let's finally look at the subs tab. Here you can see different communities. You can go into them to see what is being posted and join them just like you would in Reddit. Let's join the band sub. And it is asking you some personal question relating to the sub, like whether you're looking to form a band and what instruments you play. I am just going to select some random answers here. As you probably realized, this is something that is unique and not asked by Reddit and will have implications later for other users to find you. But first, let's finish this by joining more subs, like by Canadian, Candy Crush, Entrepreneur, and Democracy. And you see that not all subs had personal questions. Whether they do or not will be customizable to whoever creating those subs. Now, if you go back to the feed page, you'll see that posts from those subs appear. And if you go to the users page, for each users, you'll see the shared subs and also their personal detail relating to those subs. Of course, this came from the questions that everyone had to answer when joining them. And we're not done yet. If you go to the Subs tab again and click on the chat action above, you can see the chat hall for all the subs you just joined, where you can partake in any group discussion. This will be akin to something like Discord, where we have a community-based chat. Now, I'm done presenting all the methods of interaction. Let's take a look back at what we did. We took one action of joining a few subs, and this affected all three tabs and their respective methods of interaction. For the feed page, we now see more posts. For the users page, we see more details for each user. For the subs page, we get to partake in channel-based group discussion. You see, when you put everything onto one platform, there will be additional synergy that comes from the intersectionality of all these things. Whatever you do in one part can cross over to another, making the action you take more impactful and rewarding. For example, if you got interested in someone from a group chat, you might check out their profile to find out more about their subs and what they post, then maybe follow them or send a private message. For me, this is just more organic and a better approximation of real human interaction. But this is just half of the equation. Next, let's look at how it can be hypercharged further when we also make it purpose agnostic. We now have gathered two types of information. Users share demographic like age, gender, and location, and their subs-based interest. But without the means to make sense and use of all this, we would just be 40 million people gathered in a digital town hall. As stated previously, humans are multifaceted, and we often have multiple needs and desires at any given moment, and different people will satisfy them at different degree. Of course, you can be interacting with everyone, which will take forever. Instead, you want to prioritize those who can satisfy the most of your need at the highest degree. Let me explain. Say that you're into Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, and Lord of the Rings, and are looking for friends. All other factors aside, your best bet to make the best friend is with someone who shares all three interests. So you should start by searching for those people first. And if no one is found, which will be surprising in a population of 40 million, but if that's the case, you should then prioritize on those who likes two of them, and so on. In other words, you start with the highest criteria, then lowers it if needed. This way you are always operating at the highest efficiency and showing the best result with the least effort. How do we make this possible, given the data we have? We will do it in a way that is not too different than how the tech companies manage big data, by segmenting the population, then take advantage of the intersectionality of the segments. In our platform, this translates to using a powerful filter feature. Let's take a look using a real scenario that is possible in the demo app. Say that you want to find everyone who plays Candy Crush, is part of the Buy Keynesian movement, and within the same city as you. On the Users tab, on top of the Actions, I'll click on the Filter. There, you're presented with two sections. The upper one contains the personal attributes of age, gender, and location. For the location, I'll leave on the big three of Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver, which by the way also happen to be the three cities I lived in, and leave the rest as is. The lower section is the communities filter. Notice how they are made up of the subs that I have joined, and now they show up for me to further refine my target. Since we want to see people who plays Candy Crush and are part of the Buy Keynesian movement, let's toggle those on. Now, there is a further option of choosing the Candy Crush level for the targeted users. Remember when I joined the Candy Crush sub and it asked me for my level? Well, our users who joined would have been asked the same question, so now I can not only require that the filtered users be part of the Candy Crush sub, but also specify which level they should belong to. Here, let's just say that we want to see all users except those with level over 500. While this is just a fun detail to have for Candy Crush, it is quite important for more purpose-dependent subs like the jobs one, where it matters if you are a job seeker or an employer, or the dating sub, where we need to match people with the compatible gender and orientation. Now, based on our finished setup, we want to see everyone who is either in Montreal, Toronto, or Vancouver, and a part of the Buy Keynesian sub and Candy Crush sub under level 500. I'll submit. And we have one user, that is Cindy. So she lives in Montreal, does belong to both subs with Candy Crush at level 200 plus, which satisfy all of our criteria. Of course, this is just fake data with a few users. In the real app, you should have way more result. Let's see if we can broaden the criteria. I'll disable the Buy Keynesian requirement. And now you see two more users. As expected, they are not part of the Buy Keynesian sub. So this is how you can find the exact users you want. Let's take a step back and admire how much more efficient and rewarding this is. Our purpose is no longer dictated by the platform. If you're looking for both a relationship and a job, there is no need to create a separate profile on Tinder and LinkedIn, which will be tedious, not mentioning all the other platforms that we have to maintain profiles for. By merging everything into one, it is more manageable and also opens door to intersectional opportunities. What if you came across your perfect soulmate, but while doing job networking on LinkedIn? So you would have no idea that they are even open for a relationship. What a missed opportunity it would be. Now, you have the option to do the reverse by checking out their profile first, see everything they're looking for, and decides from there which is a good match for you. And since the purpose are decided by the users creating the subs, we can go beyond the traditional ones, whether it is Candy Crush, gardening, sports. The sky is the limit. The more we add, the more mixture we can have to account for our uniqueness. All these layers of our individuality add up to humanize us, which is a prerequisite to form a community and make the difference between whether we share resources sustainably or not. And this also includes the serious matter of employment. Here, I'll take a detour from the demo to share a recent personal story. I was looking for a job, but realized that it is nearly impossible in the post-AI job market, especially for a generalist like myself with experience across different fields. Employers now receive hundreds, sometimes even thousands of applications for each position. To streamline comparisons, candidates are typically filtered based on specific criteria and years of experience. Because I'm not a specialist in any one field, I simply could not compete anywhere. The entire job hunting process is so demoralizing and dehumanizing that it cannot be truly understood by anyone who has a job. It felt like I was being told every day that I did not deserve to live because everyone else was better than me. That was until a good friend of mine mentioned me to her boss. It turned out that my diverse experience in finance, IT, customer service, and my personal attributes checked all the boxes for him. In fact, he himself had difficulty hiring because the ideal candidate he envisioned is hard to advertise using traditional job categories. So after one interview, he hired me based on a role specifically tailored to my unique strength. I was lucky, but millions of Canadians are struggling every day to find employment, while up to 80% of job openings go unadvertised. This is a catastrophic failure of the job market, and things will only deteriorate as AI development advances. People will be forced to compete against each other to keep their jobs, while the AI observes, learns, and inevitably displaces them. If we want to thrive in the AI age, we need to shift our mindset away from hiring based on expertise and knowledge that can easily be replaced. Instead, we must adopt a human-centered approach that recognizes broad experiences, transferable skills, and shared values. But again, this transformation is only possible if we can identify and filter for those intersectional attributes, something that is enabled by this platform. So let's go back to the demo. There is one last thing before the demo can be considered complete. Remember when I talked about the two main methods of interaction via users and posts, and how being purpose agnostic can hypercharge both? We just saw it in action with users. Now let's check how filters can do the same on the feed page. Of course, the posts themselves are already customized by the subs we joined. What the filter does here is to add another dimension of refinement via the attribute of their authors. So let's click on the action and we see an identical filter as that of the users page. Here, we are filtering for the authors of the post. Let's look at the entrepreneur sub. If you are an entrepreneur, you might be more interested in posts from startups and vice versa. For the democracy sub where we discussed things that matters to Canadians, I personally find that older generation focus more on healthcare, millennials care more about the economy, and the younger generation are more concerned with the climate change. Given that I am a millennial interested in getting my project funded by the government to save the economy, let's go with everyone between the age of 30 and 45 who is also part of the democracy sub as either a public servant or an elected official, and also an investor in the entrepreneur sub. Now, once we submit this, we can be sure that any post we see should come from authors matching those criteria. So let's do this. And apparently, there's only one such author in the name of Ash. Let's click into their profile and we confirm that they are in the age range and is both a public servant in the democracy sub and an investor in the entrepreneur sub. And that's how we can filter posts by their authors. Sometimes it is less about what is being posted, but who is posting them. So it's good to have that filter as an option. With that, we have covered how the platform abstracts itself from being bound by either purpose or method to be both purpose and method agnostic. As such, the combination of the data gathered and the filter function empowers people to access big data in a way that was previously only available to corporations. While the demoed app is a great start, the main idea is to have an open source platform that always change and adapt to the need of the community it serves, not of any shareholders. As such, we are free to add whatever feature we like. If we want, we can display all the users, organizations, and businesses on a live map, just like Snapchat currently does. We can integrate a payment or coin system to facilitate money exchange and enable some kind of online gig economy. Or remember the Candy Crush sub where I had to input my level? How do we know that I am not lying? Maybe I am pretending to be of level over 500 so I can impress people. Well, we can mitigate this by integrating our platform to the actual Candy Crush app via API, so it can confirm my identity and level. The API integration actually opens up another Pandora's box of things we can do. This may be a little technical, but what are we really doing is to outsource the identity verification to the general population. Outside developers can build their own platform to verify whatever desired identity and we'll integrate it into ours. For example, did you complete a certificate you're proud of? If you want to showcase that on your profile, you would simply provide your credential and secret from your issuing institution, which will do its own internal verification to confirm your identity before getting back to our platform. Once confirmed, your certificate will be displayed on your profile so others can see and find you just like any other attributes. Okay, I promise I'm done with all the features. Now that you know what the platform looks like and its potentials, let's give it a name. From now on, I'll refer to it as Town Square, as a callback to those medieval gathering places in the center of every town. Before we move on, let's summarize everything so far. Our cost of living crisis is caused by the increasing wealth disparity. To reduce wealth disparity, we must encourage sustainable resource distribution. For that to happen, we need a communal environment. And since physical communities are not possible at large scale, we need to find a solution online. Finally, we cannot rely on the current social platform because they are part of the very profit-driven capitalism that destroyed communities. So we need a new platform based on a different paradigm, that is Town Square. Next, I will talk a bit about the other two exciting things that Town Square is designed to help with: innovations and information warfare. Remember how I said at the beginning that Town Square helps with both the cost of living and the annexation threat from Trump? So far, we have only covered how it addresses the former issue. Now I'll explain how it fosters innovation, an essential factor in tackling both issues. At the time of this video, Canada has been forced into a trade war against the US, with Canadians coming together to boycott the American products. While this solidarity is heartwarming, history has shown that no country has ever won an economic war through boycotting alone. In the long run, innovation and quality are what truly matter. There is no exact formula for driving innovation, but Town Square will open the floodgates of information flow, connecting people with ideas, skills, and resources, and thus creating an environment where innovation thrives. For example, let's say that you came up with the perfect idea for an app, but don't have the skills to build it nor the money to fund it. Currently, the existing venture capital platform only allows you to seek funding if you have at least a working prototype. So just having an idea will get you nowhere. With Town Square, you can leverage an entire population to maximize your chances, and in multiple ways. You may create a post presenting your idea, stating that you are looking for developers and investors, and wait for your team to assemble. Or you can directly filter everyone having the required skills or funding and message all of them. Whatever you do, you will have a much higher chance of success with Town Square than with the current fragmented entrepreneurial ecosystem. Right now, there are individuals in Canada who could change the world if only they had the right connections. Town Square will bridge that gap by breaking down barriers that keep these brilliant minds apart. In a country of millions, imagine how many pairings of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak we could bring together. Again, the economic competition with America is not a sprint, but a marathon. Boycotting might work in the short term, but to compete head to head in the long run, we must elevate our innovation game, and Town Square will deliver the edge we need. Now, I'll shift away from the economic side of things to fully focus on the elephant in the room that is the United States. Most Canadians recognize that Trump's desire to annex Canada is no bluff. He believes that our nation does not have the right to exist because we are somehow dependent on his. He backed this false belief by waging a relentless lose-lose trade war to cripple our economy. The threat is real, and we shall confront it on all fronts, not just the economic front, but also the equally important information warfare. Here is what I believe Trump's game plan is. Once our economy has been sufficiently weakened, division amongst ourselves will grow, with segments of the population calling to join the US. At that point, the US government and its tech oligarchs will fully unleash the information war. Major social platforms will suppress pro-Canadian voices while amplifying the pro-Union ones, creating the illusion that Canadians actually want to be part of the US. Trump will then use this fabricated narrative as a pretext to apply immense political pressure and take further action against our country. While Canadians can put up a fight on the economic front, we are vastly outmatched when it comes to information warfare because we lack our own social infrastructure. We rely almost entirely on American platforms for news and communication. Once the information war starts, all contents deemed anti-American will be censored, preventing us to organize effectively on any American-owned platforms such as Reddit or Twitter. In other words, we will never be able to win a war if we have to borrow bullets from the enemy. So it is a matter of national security that we must decouple ourselves from the American tech oligarchs and develop our own reliable social platform. Otherwise, we will be caught off guard when the information war goes into full swing. Here is where some of you may ask, why go through the trouble of creating an entirely new platform when we can just use decentralized networks like Blue Sky or Mastodon? This is a great platform for people who want to be free from corporate algorithm and disinformation, but the information warfare requires the participation of the general population, and this independent platform would not attract them, for the following reasons. First, they cannot compete in terms of quality. They have the core feature, but they are simply not as good. The UI is not as enticing, the smaller features are missing, and it's all understandable because they're not aiming to compete with the mainstream platform anyway. Second, they do not have the resources to support a massive user base, which often requires profit-driven funding. But this becomes a catch-22 as they would be beholden to the shareholders, which defeats the original purpose of serving the community. Third, the mainstream platform have way more users. So all things equal, this alone makes them more appealing. Look at the Threads app that came out in 2023. It was developed as a Twitter alternative with massive backing from Meta, but still failed because Twitter already exists with an established user base. Finally, there is just a cost of migrating over. Users would have to abandon their existing content and connections, some of which may have taken years to accumulate. All this to say that if we want to win over the population, we need to provide them with real value. For the same reason why innovation is better than boycotting in the long run, We cannot expect Canadians to permanently switch to an inferior platform based on patriotism alone. As I explained in this presentation, Townsquare is designed with a different concept and philosophy for the purpose of supplanting the existing platforms. It will offer Canadians a compelling reason to make the switch and also deliver lasting societal benefit for our country. And because of these benefits, we can and should seek government funding as a digital infrastructure project. This way will prevent the platform itself from falling into private hands while securing the resources needed to rival the American tech oligarchs. Can you imagine how much they will be butthurt when they see that in one swoop we completely replace all of their platform with a better one that is made by Canadians and for Canadians? At this point, I want to thank you for staying with me so far. I hope to have provided satisfactory answers to my initial claim that we need Townsquare to solve our cost of living crisis and fight off Trump's annexation attempt. And now, I would like to make a final call to action.
As I said in the beginning, I have been on this journey for the past 10 years. I have argued or discussed with hundreds of people and have never been swayed from my conviction. In fact, it is now stronger than ever given Trump's threat to our country's very existence. This is our chance to kill not two, but three birds with one stone.
Townsquare will fix the current economy by facilitating wealth distribution, secure our future economy by fostering innovation, protect our digital sovereignty by striking a decisive blow against the American tech oligarchs. And all of this for an insignificant cost. Think about the hundreds of millions of dollars our cities spend on the issues of homelessness alone, and it seems to get worse every year. Townsquare will cost a tiny fraction of that, strengthen our overall economy so that we do not only alleviate homelessness but also address inflation, poverty, unemployment, and more.
All we need is a team of developers, and we can make this open source to encourage community involvement and also further reduce development cost. And we don't even have to start as a Canadian wide initiative. We could just pilot it in one of the Canadian cities just to be safe, so we can measure the cost and benefit before letting it grow organically across the country. So, in that sense, we have nothing to lose but everything to gain. Think about it. Our country already has the worst performing economy among all developed nations. Trump is knocking on our doorstep relentlessly, and AI is coming to replace our jobs at an increasing rate. At this point, I feel like the cost of our inaction will hurt us more than anything else. As someone wise once said, we should never let a good crisis go to waste. So let's use this opportunity to build something tangible like Town Square that can directly benefit all Canadians now, and also make Canada the envy of the world as the first country to own its dedicated social network infrastructure, like we should in the 21st century. I have the knowledge, the vision, and the determination to lead the charge. The only thing missing is the funding.
So if you are a MP or any elected official at the municipal, provincial, or federal level and would like to work together to make Town Square happen, please let me know using the email on the screen at greatcanadianshield@gmail.com. And if you are an interested citizen, please consider sharing it with your local officials. Thank you.